What happens when a CEO wipes down gym equipment and suddenly freezes as a trainer tears into a new hire right in front of paying guests? Elijah Sanders had owned the fitness chain for 5 years. He'd bought it from a retired couple who started it in their garage and grew it into 11 locations across Southern California. Since then, Elijah had kept the momentum, expanding the brand while trying to protect its tight-knit, community-driven vibe. But lately, something was off. Complaints had started stacking up about the location in Glendale, not serious enough to raise alarms, but enough to catch his attention. High turnover, cold atmosphere, members canceling with vague feedback about energy. When he asked the district manager, all he got was, "The numbers are steady, we're fine." But Elijah didn't want fine. He needed real answers. So, he shaved his beard, dusted off an old pair of glasses, and wore a plain black tee with joggers that made him look like a quiet guy trying to get in shape. He called himself Eli, a new hire from the main office shadowing as part of a secret pilot program. Since none of the employees had ever met him in person and with over 200 staff across the company, it wasn't hard to pull off. He stepped into the Glendale location on a Tuesday morning. The place looked clean and modern, but the air felt stiff. No music, no greetings. A guy at the front desk barely looked up from his phone. "Hey, I'm Eli. I'm supposed to be shadowing today," Elijah said, handing over the fake onboarding papers his assistant had whipped up. The front desk guy just nodded. "Go talk to Darren," he mumbled, waving toward the gym floor. Elijah found Darren wiping down a bench press machine. Built like a linebacker and wearing a tight polo with "Head Trainer" on the chest. Darren didn't even glance his way. "You're the new guy?" Darren asked, still focused on spraying and wiping. "Yeah, Eli. From the main office thing. Just here to learn." Darren finally looked up, his eyes scanning him quickly. "You don't look like much, but whatever. Grab a towel. You're on cleanup today." And just like that, Elijah was walking the gym floor, wiping down equipment while trying to blend in. He watched members move through their routines, most keeping to themselves. A few trainers were busy with clients, but the energy was flat. No encouragement, no check-ins. Not what he wanted his gyms to feel like. Around noon, a new face walked in, young woman, maybe 20. Nervous smile. She introduced herself to Darren. "Hi, I'm Felicity. Today's my first day." Darren sighed loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Great, another newbie. Let's hope you last longer than the last two." Elijah paused mid-wipe. Felicity didn't respond, just held her welcome packet tightly. "You ever trained before?" Darren asked. "Not professionally, no. But I've shadowed classes and I'm certified." Darren cut her off. Yeah, everyone's certified. Doesn't mean anything. You need to earn your place here." Elijah narrowed his eyes. Darren turned toward the weight area. "You see that guy over there? The one doing squats with the red shorts? Go correct his form." Felicity hesitated. "I am not sure I'm allowed to." "You're a trainer, aren't you?" Darren barked. "I haven't been introduced to anyone yet." "You scared?" Darren said louder now, drawing attention. "Because if you're scared, there's the door." A few gym-goers looked up. One guy took out his earbuds. Felicity's face flushed. She looked down, murmured, "I'll try." But Darren wasn't done humiliating her. "You'll try? This isn't high school, Felicity. You either do the job or you don't belong here. I don't babysit." Elijah stopped wiping. He didn't move. He just stood there holding the towel, frozen. The girl looked like she wanted to disappear. "All right." Darren clapped his hands. "Back to work, all of you. Show's over." Felicity walked off slowly, eyes glassy. Elijah followed her with his gaze, heart pounding. He'd seen enough, but he wasn't ready to reveal himself. Not yet. He needed to see more. He headed toward the locker room to clear his head. As he passed by the cardio machines, he noticed an older trainer with a kind face coaching a member through stretches. She was patient, encouraging, a complete contrast to Darren. Elijah made a mental note. He still had 2 more days undercover, and he had no idea how deep the rot went. Elijah returned the towel to its bin and walked toward the stretching area, keeping his eyes on the trainer he'd noticed earlier. Her name tag read Carla. She was in her late 40s, with gray streaks in her braid and a calm, grounded presence. She was guiding a new mother through postnatal stretches, adjusting her posture with gentle taps and steady encouragement. The woman smiled, nodded, and followed every instruction with trust. Elijah stayed near the edge, pretending to organize foam rollers. Carla glanced at him. "You shadowing today?" she asked quietly, without pausing her instructions. He nodded once. "Yeah, just observing." Carla gave a small nod back, then turned her attention to her client. After the session ended, she offered the woman a water bottle and walked beside her to the exit before returning. She approached Elijah. "Darren send you over here?" she asked. "No," Elijah replied. "Just wanted to see how different areas run." Carla folded her arms and leaned against the wall. "Smart. That's not how most people train here." Elijah kept his tone neutral. "How do most people train?" "With pressure. Fast results. Showmanship," she said. "We've lost 4 trainers in the last 3 months. 2 just walked out mid-shift." He didn't respond immediately. Carla continued. "I've been here since before the acquisition. I stayed because I believed in what this place used to be. But lately, it's like everyone's trying to prove something instead of helping people." Elijah glanced over to where Darren was laughing with a muscular client near the free weights, slapping his back like it was a locker room. His voice carried across the floor. "Why do people leave?" Elijah asked. Carla's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in quiet dismay. "They're either pushed out or burned out." Darren sets the tone. He pretends it's about standards, but it's really about control. Elijah asked, "No one's reported anything?" "They've tried. But complaints get filtered through the district manager, and nothing changes." He nodded slowly, then asked, "What keeps you here?" Carla looked at him for a long moment. "The members. Some of them have been coming here for years. They trust me. I owe them that." Before Elijah could respond, a loud clang echoed from the weight area. A young man had dropped a barbell mid-squat. Darren barked across the gym. "Hey, you trying to break the floor? Control the weight." The member looked embarrassed, wiping sweat from his forehead. Elijah recognized him, a teenager, maybe 17, thin and clearly new to lifting. He apologized, but Darren was already walking away. Carla muttered, "That kid's been coming for 2 weeks. Darren hasn't spoken to him once before today." Elijah nodded and walked toward the front desk. The guy behind the counter was still on his phone, tapping away. He leaned on one elbow, ignoring a customer waiting with a question. Elijah stepped up beside the customer. "You been helped?" "Not yet," the customer said. "I just wanted to ask about guest passes." Elijah turned to the desk worker. "Hey man, someone's waiting." The employee looked up slowly. "She can wait. I'm updating the schedule." Elijah leaned slightly forward, voice calm but firm. "Then update it after you help the person in front of you." The employee's eyes narrowed. "You a manager or something?" "No," Elijah said. "Just someone who thinks people should be treated decently." The customer gave him a grateful nod before walking out, clearly frustrated. Elijah stepped outside for air. The sun was high, and the sidewalk shimmered with heat. He needed to clear his thoughts. He walked around the block, pulled out his phone, and sent a single message to his assistant. "Flag Glendale. I want a full payroll and complaint history by end of day." Quietly, Back inside, he returned to the locker room and found Felicity sitting alone on a bench, tying and untying her shoelaces. She looked up when he entered. "You okay?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Yeah, just regrouping. You handled yourself well out there." Her smile faded. "I didn't feel like I did." "You didn't snap. That's something." She looked down. "I didn't expect it to be easy, but I didn't think I'd be tested like that in the first hour." "Have you trained before?" he asked. "Not officially. I've run group classes at a rec center, but this is my first corporate gym." "You want to stick it out?" "I did," she said honestly. "Now I'm not sure. I need the job, but I also don't want to dread showing up." Elijah nodded slowly. "That's fair. Some things need to change around here." She looked at him, puzzled. He added, "Not everything's permanent." The rest of the afternoon moved slowly. Elijah rotated between stations, helping stack mats, checking towels, and watching interactions. Carla continued to be the only trainer consistently engaging with members in a positive way. One trainer kept checking the clock, clearly disengaged. Another disappeared into the staff break room for nearly 40 minutes. Elijah made a note of every detail. Around 5:30, a woman in her 60s walked in with a silver membership card. She moved with effort using a cane. The desk worker didn't look up. "Hey," Elijah said quietly, "can you help her? She's waiting." The worker sighed and finally got up. Elijah walked over to the woman. "Need help finding your class?" She smiled warmly. "That's very kind. I'm here for the adaptive yoga." He offered his arm. "Let's get you there." As they walked slowly toward the studio, she said, "Not many people take the time anymore." Elijah didn't answer. He couldn't. The next morning, he arrived early enough to see who opened the gym. Carla was already there, unlocking the doors and propping them open. She greeted each member by name, asking about their kids, their knees, their progress. It was effortless for her. Darren strolled in 20 minutes later, coffee in hand, sunglasses still on. No greeting, no acknowledgement. At 10, Elijah asked to shadow a personal training session. Darren assigned him to a trainer named Mason, who barely made eye contact and spoke in clipped phrases. His client looked frustrated within minutes. "Do a set of 12, Mason said, turning away to check his phone. Elijah watched silently. The client finished and waited for direction. Mason didn't notice. After the session, Elijah caught up with the client near the water fountain. "Everything all right?" Elijah asked. The man exhaled. "Third session like this. I think I'm done here. I can work out on my own if I'm going to be ignored." Elijah nodded. "Thanks for your honesty." By noon, he'd seen enough. He stepped into the manager's office, where Darren was sitting with his feet on the desk, scrolling through his tablet. "Elijah Sanders," he said evenly, "CEO of this company." Darren looked up, confused. Then his face drained of color. He started. "I've been here for 2 days watching, listening." Darren sat upright. "I didn't know." "You don't need to know who I am to treat people with respect." I was just trying to push standards," Darren stammered. "You pushed people out. You humiliated a new hire in front of members. You've ignored clients, disrespected staff, and created an environment that goes against everything this brand stands for. I can fix it, no. You're done here." Effective immediately. Darren opened his mouth again, but Elijah held up a hand. "We'll send your final check by mail." As Darren stood, stunned, Elijah turned and walked out into the gym. He found Carla near the treadmill row and motioned her over. "I need someone to act as interim manager while we rebuild this place," he said. "You're the only person here who's earned trust." Carla blinked. "Me? Yes, you already lead." Now you'll just have the title. She took a breath. I'll do it. But I won't do it alone. You won't have to. Elijah turned toward the front desk. The employee on their phone looked up nervously as Elijah approached. You're being reassigned to back-of-house duties effective today. No more member-facing work until further notice. The employee nodded, clearly rattled. Elijah stepped away and found Felicity by the stretching mats. How's day 2? He asked. She looked surprised to see him again. Better, I guess. Good, because you're staying. And you'll be getting proper training from someone who actually cares. She looked at him closely. You're not really a newbie, are you? He smiled once. Not even close. She laughed quietly. I had a feeling. Elijah turned to look at the gym floor. It still needed work systems, culture, staffing, but the change had begun. He'd seen the truth, and now there was no going back. By Thursday morning, word had spread that something had changed at the Glendale gym, though no one knew exactly what. Darren was gone. Carla had been called into the back office for a private conversation. And the new guy Eli was suddenly being treated with a lot more attention than before. Elijah walked in just before opening, this time wearing a polo with the company's logo and a clipboard under his arm. He didn't need the disguise anymore. He wanted people to know who he was now. He walked straight to the front desk, where the same employee who had refused to help members earlier in the week was now standing stiffly. Elijah didn't say anything right away. He set the clipboard down, opened a drawer under the counter, and pulled out the shift schedule. Tell me what you see here, he said. The employee leaned over the counter, reading. Today's schedule, right? And tell me, why does this location have 3 fewer employees than budgeted? No one wants to stay, the employee said. They quit. Elijah looked up. And what are we doing to keep them? There was no answer. Starting today, Elijah continued, you're being retrained off the floor. You'll work under facilities for 2 weeks. After that, we'll evaluate. The employee nodded once, silent. Elijah picked up the clipboard and walked to the training office. Carla was already inside, sorting through files that looked like they hadn't been touched in months. She glanced at him as he entered. We need to talk about staffing, he said. She gestured to a whiteboard on the wall. I started mapping out gaps. We're short 2 trainers and 1 part-time front desk assistant. And the class schedule's been stripped down to half of what it used to be. He scanned the notes. You think you can find people to step up? Carla hesitated. Yes, but they'll need support. And orientation. The last manager didn't really onboard people. They were just thrown in. Elijah nodded once. We'll fix that, starting with Felicity. She deserves a clean start. Just then, Felicity tapped gently on the doorframe. Got a second? She asked. Carla motioned her in, but Felicity looked at Elijah. I wanted to ask, is it still okay if I stay on? I know things were kind of chaotic. He set the clipboard down. It's more than okay. You're officially part of the team. Carla'll walk you through the real orientation today. No pressure drills. No public tests. Felicity let out a long breath. Thank you. I almost didn't come back this morning. You did, he said. That speaks volumes. After she left, Elijah turned to Carla. Let's talk about the rest of the staff. Who's pulling their weight? She leaned against the desk, arms crossed. Mason's coasting. Hasn't logged a single continuing education hour, and his client retention is tanking. He shows up, but that's about it. Anyone else? Lena's solid. Quiet but dependable. She runs the morning boot camps. Members love her. But she's been covering too much 3 shifts last week alone because Darren kept canceling other trainers. Has she said anything? She won't. She's old school. Thinks complaining makes her look weak. Elijah made a note. I'll talk to her. Later that morning, Elijah found Mason in the studio, leaning against the mirror while a client struggled through a set of lunges. Mason counted half-heartedly, eyes flicking to his watch every few seconds. When the session ended, Elijah approached him directly. "Got a minute?" Mason nodded, wiping his hands on a towel. "Walk with me," Elijah said. They headed to the back hallway, near the supply closet. "I've been reviewing trainer performance," Elijah began. "Your feedback scores are the lowest in the region." Mason shrugged. "Some clients just don't click with me. Can't make everyone happy." "It's not about making everyone happy. It's about showing up prepared. You've rescheduled 7 sessions in 2 weeks, and you've been late 3 times this month. I didn't realize it was that bad. That's the problem. You're going to take a 2-week leave without pay. During that time, you'll complete the company's client engagement course. If you return without improvement, we can't keep you on." Mason looked stunned. "You're serious? I'm not going to let this place slide back into what it was. And I'm not keeping anyone who treats this as a side hustle." Mason didn't argue. He just nodded and walked off. By early afternoon, Elijah met with Lena in the break room. She was eating a protein bar, sitting on a bench beside her gym bag. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. She nodded, scooting over. "I've heard you've been covering a lot lately." She gave a small shrug. "Someone had to. You've been carrying more than your share. That's not sustainable and it's not fair." "I'm fine. You're valuable. That doesn't mean you should be overworked." She gave a slight nod, looking down. "I'm bringing in 2 new hires next week. You'll get some breathing room." Lena looked up. "And Carla?" "She's interim manager, with full authority." Lena's eyes lit up just slightly, the first real sign of emotion he'd seen from her. "Good. She deserves that." By 4 o'clock, the energy in the gym was different. Carla had posted a new staff schedule that included structured onboarding times and a clear training pathway for new hires. Felicity was shadowing a small group session and helping set up resistance bands. Members were asking questions again, smiling, staying longer. Elijah walked the floor slowly, checking every corner. The bathrooms were clean, the towels stocked. Music played at a steady volume, not too loud, not silent. Near the reception area, a senior member who had been coming in earlier in the week walked up to him. "You run this place?" she asked. "I do," he said. "I can tell." Then she walked off. Toward the end of the day, Carla approached him near the back office. "You're leaving soon?" she asked. "Not just yet," he said. "I'm meeting with the district manager here tomorrow. We're going to talk about oversight or the lack of it." Carla gave a small nod. "You think they knew what was happening here? If they didn't, they weren't paying attention. And if they did, they chose to ignore it. Either way, that ends now." She paused. "You think we can turn this around?" "I know we can, but not by fixing symptoms. We're rebuilding from the ground up." As the sun dipped low outside the glass doors, Elijah stood at the center of the gym floor. The noise of weights, the rhythm of feet on treadmills, the low hum of music, it all felt different now. Not perfect, but honest. And for the first time in days, he didn't feel like a stranger in his own company. Elijah stood outside the Glendale location just after sunrise, coffee cooling in his hand as he waited for the district manager to arrive. The sun hadn't fully cleared the rooftops, and the street was still quiet. Inside, the early crew was already moving. Carla was reviewing orientation packets at the front desk, and Felicity was prepping resistance bands in the studio. Lena had clocked in at 6 and was leading a group of regulars through a warm-up circuit. The rhythm was steady, not rushed, and no one looked over their shoulder. At exactly 7:30, an SUV pulled into the small lot. The district manager, Warren, stepped out in slacks and a blazer, holding a tablet in one hand and a protein bar in the other. He glanced at Elijah, offered a polite nod, and approached with a cautious smile. "Morning," Warren said. "Didn't expect to see you here again." Elijah didn't return the smile. "We need to talk. Now." Warren followed him inside. They walked past the front desk, where Carla looked up but said nothing. She didn't need to. Elijah led Warren to the office Darren had once used, now stripped of his personal items. They sat across from each other at the small desk. The blinds were half closed, casting angled light across the papers Elijah had spread out. "I've been reviewing the complaint logs, turnover data, and member exit surveys for this location," Elijah said. "You signed off on every quarterly report." Warren shifted in his chair. "Yes, I did. The numbers weren't terrible. I assumed it was just staff adjustment." "You assumed wrong. The culture here was toxic. Staff felt disposable. Members were mistreated." "How did you not see it?" "I got reports from Darren. He said he was implementing stricter standards, that there'd be some pushback, but it was under control." "Did you ever visit unannounced? Talk to frontline staff? Observe a session?" "I came by twice in the last 6 months. Everything seemed fine." "You weren't looking hard enough." Warren sat back, folding his arms. "So what now?" "You're being suspended from supervisory duties for 30 days. During that time, you'll rotate through 5 locations starting as a floor staff, not management. You'll report directly to my office. If you want to keep your position, earn it." Warren's jaw tightened, but he didn't protest. "Understood." Elijah stood. "You're dismissed for the day. Carla's running this location. You'll start your rotation tomorrow." Warren left without another word. Elijah didn't watch him go. He turned instead to the whiteboard on the wall, now filled with color-coded notes from Carla trainer availability, class attendance, and long-term member engagement goals. It was the first time in weeks that this office had felt like a place of progress instead of damage control. By mid-morning, Elijah joined Carla near the stretching area, where she was watching Felicity guide a small class through controlled breathing exercises. The nervous posture Felicity had carried on her first day was gone. She moved confidently now, giving quiet directions, adjusting someone's stance with a gentle touch and a nod of encouragement. "She's adapting quickly," Elijah said. Carla nodded. "She asks questions, listens, has a good eye for posture. She just needed someone to believe in her." "Keep her paired with you for another week," Elijah said. "Then we'll evaluate her for solo sessions." They moved toward the back where Lena was racking kettlebells. Sweat clung to her arms, and she was breathing hard from the circuit she just finished leading. "How's your energy holding up?" Elijah asked. "I'll make it to the end of the shift," Lena replied, wiping her forehead with a towel. "I want you off the floor tomorrow. Full rest day. Paid." Lena raised an eyebrow. "You sure? We're still short. I've got 2 trainees starting Monday. You've earned a day. Take it." She didn't argue, just nodded once, then turned back to her equipment. At noon, Elijah sat with Carla in the break room, going over resumes for the open trainer slots. One stood out, a former member of the Glendale gym who had left 2 years ago due to a change in atmosphere. She'd since completed her certification and applied after hearing Darren had been let go. "She knows the culture we're rebuilding," Elijah said. "Bring her in for a working interview next week." "Will do," Carla replied, marking the note. They were interrupted by a knock. A young man in his 30s stood in the doorway, holding a clipboard and wearing a nervous expression. "I'm here for the maintenance contractor walkthrough," he said. "Got a note from corporate that Glendale needed a full facility check?" Elijah stood. "That's right. You'll want to start with the HVAC and then inspect the locker room fixtures. We've had some complaints about water pressure." "Understood," the man said. I'll report back in 2 hours. As he left, Carla gave Elijah a curious look. Didn't know we were flagged for maintenance. We weren't. I requested it yesterday. If we're fixing culture, we're fixing everything. At 3, Elijah gathered the entire staff in the studio. It wasn't a long speech. He didn't believe in theatrics. Just clarity. This place lost its way. But not because of you. Because of leadership that stopped listening. That ends now. You show up, you work hard, and you treat every person who walks through that door with respect. You'll have my full backing. Disrespect, laziness, or abuse. You're out. No second chances. There were no cheers, no applause, just quiet nods. That was enough. After the meeting, Elijah walked the floor one last time. He stopped briefly at the front desk, where Carla had pinned a new sign. Member feedback? We're listening. Below it hung a locked box with slips beside it, handwritten. Not digital. Personal. Outside, the lot was fuller than it had been all week. Regulars were staying longer, and a couple of former members had dropped in asking about reactivating. Carla had set up a referral incentive for the next 60 days, simple, fair, and easy to track. Elijah paused at the threshold before stepping out into the sun. The air felt lighter. Not because everything was fixed, it wasn't, but because the weight of silence had been lifted. Carla joined him outside, arms folded, watching a group of members laugh as they walked to their cars. You think they'll trust us again? She asked. They already are. One session at a time. She looked up at him. You're not like most CEOs. I don't want to be. I built this company to mean something. I just forgot to check if it still did. He turned toward his car. I'll be back in a few weeks. No warning. No clipboard. Keep doing what matters. She didn't say anything, just gave a single nod. As Elijah pulled out of the lot, the Glendale gym shrank in his rearview mirror. But this time, he wasn't driving away from a problem, he was leaving behind the beginning of a solution. And he wouldn't let it slip again.